taking names and kicking butts. This is Headkicks and Haymakers.
Good morning, everybody. Here we are again, Headkicks and Haymakers. It's Sunday morning. That means we are here to break down a couple fights from last night. It's me, Craig with the K, Koger. Bodkins from the Bodkins Show is here again. As usual, it'll always be all three of us. As you can tell, Bodkins is a little under the weather. He's down in the COVID camper on vacation in Iowa with the family. Ended up with the COVID. Bodkins, how you feeling, buddy?
Like straight dog poop.
Yeah, it's I would say it looks that way, but I hate to offend you from this far away. Craig, how you doing this morning?
I'm doing much better than Bodkins appears to be, man. I'm doing good.
Yeah, I think everybody is. My little baby's got a diaper full of shit. I think she's doing a little better than Bodkins is right now.
And the only person that's doing worse than me is Dominic Cruz with his broken nose last night.
Yeah, Bodkins, I know you want to jump on and kind of give us a little breakdown of that before you got to go get some more rest in. So let's jump right into that. Man, Cruz looked good for 2.5 rounds, and then he looked really bad for about 15 seconds.
Well, I thought Cheeto rocked him a few times in round 1 and 2, but that's just how the fight's supposed to start. Like, Cruz is a fast starter, Cheeto's a slow starter, takes a lot of reads, and that's what he did with Rob Font. The 3rd, 4th, and 5th turned it on. Well, this time he just was able to put Dominic Cruz's lights out. I mean, might have put Dominic Cruz's career lights out. I mean, I don't think we're going to ever see Dominic Cruz in, like, elite company where he's defending for the title, where Cheeto, I mean, arguably you could make a case that he's next, I mean, we got a little bantamweight Grand Prix where all these top 10, 13 guys are getting ready to fight. He very easily could be the next guy. But I feel like I got kicked in the face by Cheeto, so I'm going to hop off here, boys. Y'all have a good rest of the show. I'll catch y'all next Sunday.
Yeah, thanks for jumping on, buddy. Take it easy and get some rest.
Yeah, get some rest, man.
All right, so yeah, I mean, he definitely said it, man. Cheeto, that fight kind of went the way it was supposed to, as far as Cruz's experience kind of showed early, and then Cheeto kind of took over. What do you think about that?
For sure, man. And I mean, the scorecards had it the way everybody had it, 2-0 after the first 2 rounds. But if not for the 2 takedowns that Cruz got, I probably give round 1 to Cheeto. Cheeto had the knockdown early. And then I thought Cheeto won round 3 and then was on his way to winning round 4. I felt like Cheeto might have been down early, but I felt like Cheeto had the fight kind of where he wanted it the entire time. It really seemed like he was in too much danger. He was letting Cruz get a lot out. He was getting a lot of looks, and you kind of knew that Cheeto had the power to do some damage in the later rounds. And that's exactly what happened. It seemed like it was just kind of the whole fight went the way Cheeto wanted it to. Bodkin says arguably Cheeto's next. I mean, Cheeto's got a case, man, but the division, I mean, you got a lot going on up there at the top right now. So, I mean, it's hard. Cheeto did say that he wants to revenge the loss he's got to Aldo if Aldo can win this Saturday. So, I mean, that's a possibility too. But we'll have to see how things play out. There's a lot of big fights coming up in that division here real quick.
Yeah, definitely a log jam at the top of 135, which can kind of, like you guys alluded to, it can work out to Cheeto's favor. The thing about that log jam, all you have to do is be the log that floats to the top. If you can be the log that floats to the top, you can get a chance at that belt. And there's a lot of things that are going to happen here where, maybe Aldo does win, but maybe he's hurt. We have no idea what's going to happen with Aljo and TJ. Maybe Aljo wins again, but he gets hurt. We could have an interim title situation. There's just so many things that can happen when you have 4 or 5 major fights happen at the top of a division that Cheeto, man, if he, with this win, especially the way he's been winning, it's very easy for him to just kind of let a few people get hurt and a few things snake away and him just slip in there and he can get himself a title shot with the next fight. Either way, I think it's a title eliminator. Well, I do think that Aldo gets the title shot if he wins. I just think that legend status and that name, I think he'll get that shot. Part of that's going to be how Aljo and TJ go down. I mean, if it's close, it might be a guaranteed rematch fight situation. Like I said, a lot of things got to happen. But I would like to see him fight either the loser of Aljo and TJ or the winner of Yan and O'Malley. Because I think if Yan wins, you're not going to give Yan right back to Aljo because Aljo made him look pretty bad for half that fight.
What if it's TJ though?
If it's TJ, then it's, I mean, that's the thing. Things get muddy so fast.
Right, they can. But kind of like you alluded to, so if it is O'Malley out of O'Malley and Jan, I would love to see O'Malley and Cheeto go at it again. I know we've talked about it before. It's hard to see in my mind that fight going down at any point in their careers without there being some sort of belt on the line. But that's a fight that I'd like to see, just the way that the Sugar and Cheeto fight, the first one, you know, ended so quickly, and the way that it ended. I'd like to see that one again too.
I'd like to see, because I think that, myself included, I'm guilty as charged. That first, the Cheeto O'Malley fight, man, I just doubted Cheeto so much. I really disrespected him a lot. I was one of those people that said O'Malley was still undefeated. He got hurt. But then you just watch what Cheeto's done since then. Like, no, the calf kicks are real. Like, the calf kicks are a thing we've seen kind of blow up since that fight, even the way Connor went down with it and everything else. That, no, it was strategy. You know, Cheeto hurt him. You know, ever since then, if a guy gets hurt with calf kicks, we say, no, the other guy won. And so I'm not going to say O'Malley got hurt. And the things that Cheeto's done since then, I think, have earned him a hell of a lot of respect with people. And it's a fight that I think if it happens again, it's like, okay, Sean, like, you said a lot of shit. Like, now you have to back it up. And it's Cheeto, like, go show the world that it wasn't a fluke, that he didn't get hurt, that you finished that fight.
Yeah, I mean, Cheeto's been finishing all the fights here lately. And
now he's a highlight reel, dude. I mean, his feet are highlight reels.
Right, he's been hurting guys. I saw a picture on Twitter, and it was the two head kicks, and then the other two just pictures of the guys after the fights, and Cheeto is putting it on people. I mean,
Cheeto called out Aldo. If you're Aldo, you can't want that fight, right? I mean, if you're a legend and you fight Cheeto Vera right now, you end up on a highlight reel. Frankie Edgar, Dominic Cruz. If you're a big name and you get fed to Cheeto, you get finished.
I think if you're Aldo and you win this weekend, I mean, you're probably doing everything you can to try to get that title shot. Cheeto's not the guy that you don't want to have to go through Cheeto to get that title shot. You want to just say that I've earned it. And I mean, he's been around long enough. UFC might give it to him. You know what I mean? Depending on how the TJ and Aldo fight goes, I mean, Aldo might be next in line.
Yeah, like I said, I mean, there's fighters that are saying that Aldo's name's come up a lot. You know, as soon as Volk said that he was the 145 GOAT, first name that Max brought up was Aldo's. You know, and he hasn't fought at 145 in a while, so that kind of says a lot. And you see the 135 guys. Even Sean came out and he said, you know, if I beat Peter, I'd love to have a title shot, but I think that Jose deserves one first. And so I think that with the name that he has, I think Dana can easily market whoever it is fighting for that belt. So I think if Aldo wins, he's going to go ahead and get it. And I'm cool with that, especially if it opens up a Cheeto O'Malley rematch.
Yeah, for sure. It gets murky with Peter Yan, I think, because, I mean, if Peter Yan goes out there and makes quick work of Sean O'Malley, I mean, he's got a pretty good argument to take on, you know, for a belt. Or you could do him and Cheeto, you could do him and the loser and give Cheeto the title shot. It gets pretty muddy up there, but there's a lot of fights that can be had, you know.
Yeah, no, I mean, when you really think about it, I mean, with Jan, he's outside of the second fight with Aljo, man. How good has he looked against everybody? He's never had a moment where, I mean, that second fight against Aljo, we thought Aljo was walking to his death, you know. And so I think that if he wins in devastating fashion against O'Malley, which he can, it's really easy for him to turn around and say, I want another fight with Aljo. I want TJ. I want Aldo. I don't care who it is, but I'm fighting for the belt.
Right.
So that'll be interesting to see how that goes down. Some other big fights they've been talking about. Stipe and Jones. Finally, it seems like the wheels are going to get turning on it. I know you had mentioned this morning in group it's looking like maybe December. End of the year, it's got to happen, you know, just to keep everything online with Francis coming back next year to unify the belts and everything, because you know that's got to be an interim belt fight. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, for sure. That's the fight we've been, talking about for a while now. And if they can get that inked up by the end of the year, I saw a deal on MMA News that they were shooting for the December pay-per-view for Stipe and Jones. I mean, that's great for everybody, man. And I mean, we've talked about it before. This fight is, how has UFC not put it together yet? You know, this is a GOAT fight of GOAT fights at the heavyweight division. And it's John Jones. We haven't seen John Jones. I mean, that's a hype train in itself. no matter, you know, who he's matched up against up there in the heavyweights. But to be able to get Jones and Stipe on a card together, man, that's the fight we've all been waiting for and we've all been shooting for. And if they can make it happen by December, then maybe we can get Francis in there, you know, by early to middle of next year and get something going there. I think it's probably an interim belt fight, but even if it's not, I mean, it's a great fight. UFC is going to market the hell out of it, and it's going to be, I mean, I think it's going to be a record-setting type of pay-per-view. You get Jones and Stipe on the card.
I think whoever Jones fights next, his first fight back, is going to set some records just because he's coming back. He's done enough in the cage to build himself a lot of lovers. He's done enough out of the cage to build himself a lot of haters, and that means that Dana's going to make a lot of money the next time that he gets back in the cage. And I think when that's the thing about the GOAT fight marketing. If you're going to do that, boy, you better get Stipe in there quick. And that's the one thing that I would say. That's why they kind of need to get it going. And that's no offense to Stipe. I mean, he is a little older. He's taking that KO now, so is it going to open the floodgates on him, you know, so to say. So it'll be interesting to see kind of how that whole thing goes down, but it is definitely time to get it on paper.
I agree. I mean, I've kind of said it before. Stipe, young Stipe, and good Stipe, you know, world champion Stipe, took a lot of shots. And as you get older, you just don't take them shots the same. And I mean, some of these guys, like whenever you're fighting guys like Francis Ngannou, I mean, those guys just hit differently than a lot of other guys. And like you alluded to, if you're going to get Stipe and Jones on paper, I mean, you kind of had to do it pretty quick, I think.
Yeah, I'm interested to see. There's a lot of rumors. I say rumors. There's a lot of talk coming out of Stipe camp saying that this isn't the same 230-pound Stipe that Francis fought last time. Everybody's saying that he put on, you know, 15 to 20. Who knows how much of that's real? Who knows how much of it's not? But it seems like he's kind of bulked up and decided, you know, I think that his wrestling skill technically has kind of allowed him to be a little bit smaller than some of the people he's had to fight. Now that he's kind of, I mean, Francis is getting some wrestling skill. Everybody's going to have to get a little stronger because that's a big son of a bitch you got to wrestle with now. And so I think that Stipe kind of learned that. I'm interested to see what he looks like bulked up. You know, kind of like John Jones. I'm interested to see what he looks like bulked up. That's kind of the biggest thing about the John Jones draw is, man, we've seen the pictures on Instagram and Facebook and blah, 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 just spread around of just how good he looks as a heavyweight and not having to cut weight. Like, it's time to see it in real life. I'm tired of seeing you hit pads. Like, I don't care if it's money, whatever it is. Dana, you know you're going to make the money. Find a middle ground. Let's get this thing going. Because Jones has got to understand he's been sitting a long time too. And there's people legitimately right now that are fans that have never seen him fight in a cage in live action. They maybe seen some replays, but a casual fan maybe not was around 5 years ago when Jones was great.
Right.
You know, so it's time for him to get back out there. He's got a chance to have a whole second career as a heavyweight. Especially the way social media is blown up and everything since then.
Right. I was going to say he's playing a lot of the social media card. He's leaking a lot of videos of him training. And like you said, we've seen the videos on Twitter and Instagram of John Jones out here as a heavyweight. And I mean, the dude looks good and we've seen him in the cage. We know what he can be capable of. So the idea of John Jones at a heavyweight can be scary, but when Stipe lost to Francis, he came out and said, if I'm going to compete in this division, I need to put on about 20 pounds. So if he's done that and he feels good and he feels confident, I mean, Stipe is still, I mean, there's a reason that we're saying Stipe and Jones is a GOAT fight at the heavyweight division because Stipe is no slouch and Stipe is no joke. So, I mean, to me, there's a lot of exciting fights coming this fall and finishing off the year, but capping it off with Jones and Stipe would just be, I mean, to me, that's the way to do it. If UFC can make that happen, that's the way to hit it.
Yeah, I think Dana knows that too. I mean, I remember being back in the day, the New Year's Eve card seemed to be the best card of the whole entire year. As long as there wasn't a UFC 100 or a UFC 200, you know, a big milestone. It seemed like those end of the year cards seemed to be monsters. Now, some of those bigger fights we got pushed back with Conor fighting in January and then Conor Poirier fighting in January. Like, it seems like January is kind of turning into that month, but it really looks like the Dana's going to take advantage here and try to finish this year off strong. If we can get that, I think we're all doing a little bit better.
Yeah, and I mean, the pay-per-view cards coming down the stretch here of the year are really good, but there's some good fight night cards coming up too, like the Gan Tuivasa card, fight night card coming up it's got Robert Whitaker and Marvin Vettori on it as well. I mean, when you're hitting fight night cards like that, I mean, I feel like we've got something rolling here down the stretch with the UFC, man. There's some good cards and some exciting fights.
Yeah, that fight night you alluded to, man. It's been a while since we got to see some of those guys for free.
Right. That's what I mean, man. And there's some good fight nights coming up down the stretch. I know we had just talked about it in group the other day about the Strickland and Cannonier fight. And whenever you guys told me that was coming up, I just automatically assumed it was on the pay-per-view. And I was like, man, how are they getting so many damn fights on this pay-per-view? And you guys were like, no, that's a fight night. I mean, when we're getting fight nights with headline fights like those kind of guys, like those kind of names, I mean, to me, when you got Gane to Avasa, Whitaker, Vettori, that's a pay-per-view card. I mean, we've seen pay-per-view cards where, you know, those are the top 2 fights on them.
We've seen pay-per-view cards that with worse fights on them than that, for sure. That's
right.
I won't get too far in depth on that, but we've definitely seen pay-per-views with worse headliners, worse co-mains than both of those. So I'm definitely looking forward to Strickland and Cannonier, man. I mean, it's definitely going to be a battle of styles, but it's 2 dudes that are coming off a loss. Both the dudes are fighting for a belt that they lost to. So, I mean, it's definitely 2 high-level guys. I think Strickland Cannonier's kind of the guy he wants to fight, I think, a little more. He doesn't necessarily want to deal with that power as much. But give him a guy that wants to grapple just a little more, that wants to kind of dirty box a little more, that he can try to keep at reach. When we said it in the preview before Strickland Pereira, that's the wrong guy for Strickland to fight.
Right.
Because he can keep him at distance the same way Strickland can, but he's better at it, and he showed that.
Both of us picked Pereira in that fight. But yeah, man, I mean, Cannonier and Strickland, the 2 guys that they just lost to are getting ready to fight for the belts. So, I mean, that fight makes sense to me, and I think you're right. It is kind of more of a fight that's kind of up Strickland's alley. It does kind of eliminate the loser, I think, from, you know, this top area. So to me, it was a good fight to make. I mean, I like it. I like the fight. And really, I mean, I think it's a fight that Jared can handle too. So it'll be interesting to see. But I do think it was a good matchup. And I think it's one of the things that I like that's kind of happening here is we're getting some guys like, I mean, that just got done fighting, getting back in and signing on. And we're making things happening pretty quick here, which I like. And I think it's good for the division.
I think it's good for every division if you can get guys to not take necessarily quick turnarounds. I don't want a bunch of guys fighting short notice fights, putting their safety or their skill, you know, at risk. But at the same time, if you can get guys to turn around and understand, like, hey, this is a fight that makes sense for everybody, let's go ahead and sign this thing, even if it is in October. You know, it seemed for the last couple of years, it seems like it's been hard to get a fight signed 5 months in advance. You know, it seems like they really want to wait until we're right down to that 2 or 3 month mark, and then, oh, now let's fill this card. So anytime that we can get fights on paper, I mean, heck, that's what we're sitting here doing, is trying to talk about fights. Let's get as many on paper as we can so that we can get them talked about. It's hard to talk about a speculative fight. You know, we spend a lot of time talking about Stipe Jones. Thank God that's one that looks like it has to happen. But a lot of those speculative fights you get talking about, man, they fall through, something happens, and it's hard. So the more we can get fights we can get on paper and we know they're going to happen, the more cards we can build. I think the better off Dana is, UFC, and the fans.
Right. And so I heard the rumor, I think maybe either you or Bodkins had mentioned it in the group about Jack and Brunson fighting. Is that something that's been inked? Do you know, or is that just rumor?
I've not seen it inked yet. Bodkins was the one that sent it in. I haven't seen much about that yet. I know there's a rumor about it. That's a good fight. I mean, like we kind of said, it's going to be a really good, boring fight. But that's kind of – that top 7 needs one stud wrestler in it to kind of keep everybody else honest. 2, it kind of gets, you know, a little boring sometimes. That means every other card you're getting, you know, kind of a little bit more of a boring fight. So I like having Brunson and Hermanson to kind of have the chance to be that wrestler that sticks around that top mix and kind of let everybody else do it. It's going to be interesting to see, though, because Hermanson, he showed a lot more stand-up in his last fight. And if he starts working a little bit more of that stand-up game with his wrestling, I don't know if he's going to ever, you know, fight for that belt, but I think that he can stick around that top 5 mix a little longer if he can keep that stand-up game progressing.
Yeah, the win. I mean, I wasn't sure if that was like you said. I don't like to sit here and talk about speculative fights because they might end up meaning nothing, and you can talk about speculative fights literally all day, because there's so many different ways that you could try to, imagine and making things happen. But if that fight were to happen, I mean, the winner of that fight is, I mean, they're up there in that top 5 area. I mean, the division's tough. We got the title fight coming up with Izzy and Piera. We'll have to see how that goes. But outside of the title fight, there's a lot of good, I mean, guys up there in that top end. So that division as a whole is kind of top heavy,
Yeah, you got to think that Brunson Hermanson, whoever wins that fight, is probably 2 fights away. After that, you get a real top 5 guy. After that, you get a title eliminator, and you're fighting for the belt. You got to think that that's kind of the path that they're going to have to take. And so this is a fight that if it gets inked, both of them have to win if you're trying to stay in that mix. Kind of like Cruz. Bodkin said it in his little bit. He might have got his career ended last night because he had title aspirations. He doesn't want to just hang around and fight just to make money. He's got money. He's probably making more commentating than he is losing fights. So it's probably going to be more lucrative for him. And I think that when you see that title aspiration type get drug away, Stipe is kind of in the same boat. That's why you kind of have to maximize and win now. And Hermanson and Brunson, both of them are kind of in that same boat where they're not like super old. They do got a lot of cage miles on them. And if you're going to try to make one more run at the belt, you've got to win this fight. Try to do it in your next 3 fights because you probably don't get a chance after that.
Right, and that's the thing. It's not that they're too old per se, but it's when you lose these fights. I mean, it's a 2 to 3 year climb back to the top, and so you only get so many opportunities to really do that. So when you're inside the top 10, I mean, it's kind of now or never for some of these guys, and I mean, I think Dominic Cruz is going to get a retirement fight. I mean, the crowd was so behind him last night, and a lot of these guys deserve it. But I mean, I think Dominic Cruz's days of looking or thinking that he's going to hold a belt over his shoulder again are over. I mean, I think that fight last night was kind of his now or never.
Yeah, well, the style that he fights, that kind of half capoeira style where he's just a lot of dipping and diving. And as soon as you look at his feet and try to look at his footwork, that's when he comes at you with them big hooks. That worked when he was young and he could take those extra shots on the way out because he leaves his chin open a lot. And if you watch, man, even in the second round, I was thinking, boy, every time he ducks to that right, if Cheeto gives him that left foot, it's going to be over. And you've seen him miss a couple times with it, and he kept trying to go to that front kick with that Frankie Edgar kick, but I think Cruz was looking for that one. And then in that 4th round, he finally feinted the right hook. He went left and popped him in the nose, and he put his nose right underneath his eyeball real quick.
Yeah, immediately that thing looked broken.
Oh, it was 100% broke very quick. And I mean, when you're a guy like Cruz, you've definitely earned a retirement fight if that's the way you want to go out. But it's definitely, I mean, it's not. I mean, if Aldo loses, let's have them fight each other. Let the legends go out on their shield, But I think both of them are kind of in that boat too.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, like we alluded to it a little bit earlier, but Aldo's another one of those guys that it's kind of now or never. If he loses this fight coming up this Saturday, I mean, he's another guy that, he's probably not looking at a title shot again.
No, when Aldo, I mean, you said it like it doesn't really matter how old you are. It just takes so long to get back. When Aldo lost to Jan, I never thought it would take him this long to get back and get a title shot. And just things have been so muddy, and TJ took off, and then Jan took off after that. Now Aljo's got the belt, and you just seen so many things happen that it's taken him 2-3 years now to finally get back to this point where he can say that he's a fight away from not even guaranteed, just a fight away from being able to hopefully demand a title shot.
Right.
So I think if you're that old in your fight career, then I think you've got to win now.
When you're up in the top 5 area and you lose a fight, I mean, the guys that are, in the 10 to 15 range, they win 2-3 in a row, they're jumping you, even if you win a fight or two. I mean, things start to get murky real quick. So, I mean, you can't afford to lose those fights when you get up there because, I mean, like I said, it's a 3-year climb back up.
Yeah, and Dana's getting where he loves giving those guys that are 10 to 13 a top 5 guy or top 5-ish guy. And the more times that he gives the Tai Tuivasas a chance and they win, and if Sean can go out and beat Peter, and when Marlon fought, Marlon, that's the first time I ever called him Marlon Vera, when Cheeto fought Frankie Edgar, like if he keeps giving these low guys a chance and they capitalize on it, that just means if you're at the top and you just took a loss, you're that much further behind because now these guys got a bunch of hype. You know, you don't want Cheeto Vera out there knocking everybody out on a highlight reel, and you're sitting there saying, "I'd love to have a title shot."
Right. And one of the
Cheeto's
things
gonna
that
look at you and say, "I'll kick your head off too, bro."
one of the things I kind of loved about Cheeto after the fight last night was I felt like they were almost baiting him to say, give me the title shot. I'm next in line. And he was like, I wouldn't mind avenging Aldo. I really don't care who's next. I'm just out here to, fight. And I mean, he's done enough. He's got a resume where he could be like a lot of these other guys. I mean, I'm going to sit still. I'm going to demand a title shot. I'm going to talk a bunch of shit. Cheeto, I mean, I felt like they were even kind of baiting him in the press, and he wasn't taking it. He was like, I'll take whatever's next.
No, that's what they do now. They're trying to get a soundbite. They're trying to be the ones that can write the story with the headline that says Cheeto Vera demands title shot or whatever it is. They want to be the one to get him to say it. I get that 100%. You got a job to do. I have all the respect in the world for Cheeto for not biting into it, especially for understanding, like, you should probably have to avenge that loss. If he's going to turn around and say O'Malley should have to avenge a loss to him to get through him, shouldn't he have to avenge a loss to Aldo to get through him?
Right.
And I think he understands. He's got enough respect for the game itself and the journey that you should have to take. It's almost got a lot of Charles Oliveira feel to it. Where just the respect for the game and the respect for the belt and the journey that a champion is supposed to take. It seems like they both kind of have that idea of, if it takes me an extra year so I can avenge this loss, then I will do that. Because then no one can say, yeah, you still lost to Aldo. Yeah, no, I kicked Aldo's teeth to the moon too. He's sitting up there with Dominic Cruz somewhere.
Right.
So it'll be interesting. We're going to wait. We'll tease a little bit. Harrison Cyborg's been in the works a little bit. Just for our few fans that watch, for Landis, if you're out there listening, they're trying to market this fight in PFL as the best of the best in the cage with Cyborg and Harrison. And I know that both of us agree that I just don't know how you can do that without Kayla Harrison fighting Amanda Nunes, considering she's already made Cyborg run away from the UFC.
Yeah, kind of like we talked about, we got to get Bodkins on the show here to get the other side, because me and you are kind of 100% the same way. I don't think you can market any female GOAT fight in any type of MMA right now without Amanda Nunes fighting somebody. Like I said the other day in group, the last time I remember seeing Cyborg in a memorable fight, we talk about Jorge throwing the 2-piece in a soda. Amanda Nunes gave Cyborg about an 8-piece family pack with about 4 sodas and gave her everything she could handle. And I mean, I can't hop on board with calling it. I'm all about making the fight happen. I'm all about marketing it. I just can't call it a GOAT fight with Amanda Nunes not in it.
Right. No, I agree. It's absolutely the best fight that the PFL can make for Kayla Harrison, because she shows every single card that she's on that there's zero competition for her in PFL. As much as Pena and everybody else wants to say that Amanda's the GOAT of a ghost division at 145, Kayla Harrison's the GOAT of a ghost division in PFL too, because there ain't a single woman there at any weight class that can handle her. So I think if you could bring Cyborg in, that's definitely the fight to make. It's going to put some eyes on. I'm going to watch it.
It's right, and it's a name for the PFL. It's a big market there. I mean, well, who else? Like you said, who else are they gonna let Kayla fight that's gonna market it at all in the PFL? You know what I mean?
No, that's it. So we'll get Bodkins on to tell us why Kayla Harrison's the best female fighter in the world next week. But up until then, we're gonna go ahead and say that until she beats Amanda Nunes, no, she is not. So that pretty much does it for UFC stuff, huh?
Yeah, small shout out to the fight of the night last night, that Onama Landwehr fight. I mean, that was a entertainment, man. I really enjoyed that.
Man, it was something. So I was watching the Shamrock card at the same time, so I had to go back and rewatch that one. And when I seen, I'll lie, I cheated. I looked up the results and I knew the decision after, before I watched that fight. And it's hard for me to go back and want to watch a decision fight. But, man, that really turned out to be a lot better fight than it looked like on paper with the results.
Yeah, so I actually was with our friend of the program, Chris Landez, yesterday. I was at his house, and I left his house right after the Lucindo and Yasmin.
I'm going to butcher it.
Yeah, I can't think of her last name at the moment. But I left his house right after that fight, so I actually missed because I wanted to get back to my house in time to catch the Cheeto fight. So I missed that Anama Landwehr fight, and I actually had to go back and rewatch it after the Cruz and Cheeto fight. But man, it was pretty entertaining. You thought it was over a couple of times, and Landwehr, he just kind of almost had a little bit of a Michael Chandler feel to him, man. He was just out there just trying to get the crowd into it, almost didn't care if he won or lost. He was just trying to put on a show, and it was pretty entertaining. I thought it was a good fight.
No, it was a good fight. All right, so this is going to be part of our show. It's going to be a little new. These things aren't going to happen very often. But last night there was a local fight card down at the lake. It was Shamrock FC 340. And a few weeks back on the Bodkin show, he had local coach from Parabellum MMA in Waynesville, Colton Carmack, on. And he talked about his upcoming pro fight and some of the guys that he had fighting. The next week, he actually had Sweet Baby Ray Hayes on, who's the 145 champ of his current league, and then went and fought Shamrock last night at 155. And, man, I watched that whole card. It was a huge night for Colton Carmack and Parabellum MMA. They went 4-1. I can confirm on the card. I missed one of the fights during the stream, so I'm not sure what happened with David's fight, but I know they went 4-1 on the card. Colton's brother opened the card with a kickboxing match, full glove kickboxing match. 2 knockdowns every round. Man, just looked good, long, athletic, quick. I know Colton said that he's cutting a lot of weight to stay down at 125, 135. That's where he wants to fight at, and he's going to be a menace in the amateur ranks around there, because that is a long, quick kid. Being in the gym with Colton, it is never, ever he's not going to let you take a step back. And so it's definitely going to be good for Chance. You could tell there's a couple times in his fight that he got them knockdowns, and he almost kind of lunged at him a little bit and had to take a step back. It's a kickboxing match. You can't just jump on and finish. It would have been a first-round KO easy. And so that was a good fight for Chance Carmack and for his Colton's little brother. And then their second fight they had, man, Colton, I think they had like the first 3 or 4 fights, it seemed like, just rattled him off. Colton never got to leave the cage. Second fight, man, Matt, so he's got a wild last name, is Matt Bukestead, something like that. It's pretty close to that. Welterweight fight. He fought this kid named Braden Arenbro out of Springfield. And let me tell you, this guy came straight off of the Ultimate Fighter. I mean, there is 0% chance this guy should be fighting an amateur fight in Lake of the Ozarks, Missouri. The dude he was yoked, huge 170er. I told you even before the show, looked like GSP on roids, man. The kid was young, just quick, athletic. He opened the fight with the front kick, and you could tell that Matt from Parabellum, he kind of was like, not this look in his eye, like, I ain't scared of you. And he went in through overhand right and missed, and that guy gave him a hook, and his mouthpiece flew about 25 feet that way. And it was over pretty quick, man. It's no offense to Matt, man. The Parabellum guys had a good showing last night, but that Braden Aaron kid is a problem. And he's only got 2 amateur fights. He's out of Springfield. So look him up, too, if you're a fight fan, because he's definitely a guy that's going to make his name in mid-Missouri, too. After that, Ray's little brother actually fought Austin Hayes, 19-year-old kid, making his amateur MMA debut. He was an amateur boxer in USA Boxing ranks, they said. Ray kind of talked about that a little bit on the show when he was with Bodkins. And you could tell in the first few seconds, man, the first 30 seconds-ish, he kind of a little timid, kind of had that first-time jitters a little bit, not sure how it was going to go. He's 6'1" kid, cutting down 155, so he's kind of a bigger kid, thin but just real tall. The guy he fought was 5'7" or 5'9", that's a short dude. Came in and thought he was just going to take him down, I guess. Well, he got wrapped up in a guillotine that turned into a half-Darce choke really quick, and he couldn't tap fast enough. I mean, as soon as that thing got latched on, he didn't have a chance to even gas for air. I think he already knew that was it, and he was tapping.
First round submission, right?
First round submission, man. Standing guillotine choke in a minute, and that's he lifted him dang near off the ground. That's where that 6'1" frame is going to help him being able to cut down. And he looked like he might even have a little more room to cut. I would never tell a 6'1" kid to cut down to 145 pounds, but he looked like he might have a little more room if those guys can get him in a sweatsuit maybe. But looked very, very good. Very good for a 19-year-old kid. He's going to be one to watch, too, out of Parabellum. They had a female fight. Zena Thompson fought Sophia King. Man, the commentators, bro, before all they talked about was the Sophia King girl. The people in the chat on the stream was talking about they can't wait to watch Sophia King fight. I guess she's a local from the lake, and I guess she's a thing until last night because Zena Thompson, man, she the stand-up game wasn't necessarily going her way. That's Sophia King threw some heavy hands, but every time that they got any situation where Zena could get her to the ground, she had her wrapped up. She about had her tapped out on armbar a couple times in the first round, and Sophia was able to get out of it. You could tell, I don't know if she was just a little more tired in the second round, but Zena ended up getting her down, got her in a nice body triangle from the back, locked in the rear naked choke, and that thing was over in a hurry once they got to the ground. That I don't know what they're doing over there at Parabellum. Let me tell you, them MMA boys are working on their jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, there's a lot of knowledge down there in that gym, man. And I mean, there's some big things probably coming out of that gym. People are going to start knowing some of their names.
Yeah, I mean, with Colton going pro, it's going to help them out a lot, get more of a following and some notoriety. I tell you, if they can keep getting 4 or 5 fighters on a card and having a bunch of first round, second round finishes, they're going to keep getting a lot of notoriety too. And after Zena's fight, there's a little break before Ray fought. Man, Ray came out. He fought this kid. I mean, big kid from Eldon, Christian Bourne. He's a big kind of stacked up dude. He looked a lot bigger than Ray. And Ray kind of called it in the fight when he was on Bodkin's show. He said, I think this guy's just going to try to take me down. I think he's going to work for the takedown the whole time. From the very jump, dude just rushed at him, tried to get the takedown. And Ray kind of went for the guillotine a little bit. I thought it was going to be both Hayes brothers going for a standing guillotine from a takedown shot early in the fight. And the kid's just a little too tall, and Ray could quite get it locked in. Kid had some decent wrestling up against the cage to keep it from getting locked in. But Ray just decided, I've had enough with you. Pushed off with 2 hands, gave him 2 big old hooks, one with each hand. And kid just ate it, fell down to the cage, and he took 2 more shots. I mean, the ref was coming to pull Ray off before he gave him the 2 extra shots. I think them 2 extras was just for the takedown attempt. But nah, man, Ray looked good. A lot of energy, climbed the cage afterwards. You know, gave the old Aaron Rodgers discount, double check with the belt on, and
that's the second belt for him now.
Yeah, man, it was such a good showing for Parabellum and all the Parabellum guys and Colton Carmack and just all the coaches down there. They went down there, they cleaned house. Even Matt, man, I mean, the dude he fought right there, and like I said, this is what are you going to do against a guy like that? I mean, he could go back and watch that film 100 times, and that's just a fight that's just going to go that way. Probably 10 times out of 10, that kid's going to be a problem. He's young, he's hungry, but man, great showing for Parabellum. I wanted to make sure that we gave them and Colton and everybody a shout out this morning on the show. I've been talking to Colton a little bit. We're kind of in the works. He's on the road right now, getting ready for his fight down in Texas, his first pro fight. And so we're going to work out, try to do a little Q&A maybe today through some text messages, and I'll get a little thing written up of kind of what he thought, what the guys thought, and how the Parabellum guys thought and felt last night after their show.
Yeah, for sure, man. Colton's fighting, I think, San Antonio this weekend, right?
Yes, sir. San Antonio this weekend, his pro debut, so that's going to be one to watch. It's nice to see him finally getting that chance and to go show what he's got on the pro stage. So it's going to be cool. And I think Ray, man, I don't know. I'd like to talk to him. Let me see if I can't work that out too. He's got to be thinking about pros. You got 2 belts, man. You're finishing dudes in the first, second round about every time. It seems like some pro leagues got to start calling him and getting his name around there too.
Right. We kind of always say, man, there's levels to this game, and I feel like when you're holding multiple belts at the level that you're at, that means it's time for you to level up. You know what I mean?
No, I think 100%. I think he even kind of said when he's on the Bodkin show, obviously the big shows is everybody's goal, but it takes time to get there, and I think it's definitely time for him to take that next step if that opportunity provides itself.
For sure.
Man, it's about I think as I hate Bodkin's not being here to host us out, but I don't know if you got anything else to touch on, anything else you want to hit before we get out of here.
No, man. I mean, hopefully Bodkins gets, healthy and well, and we'll see him back on the Bodkins show soon. We got the pre-show and the post-show next weekend. So again, the belt will be on the line. I plan on her staying with me. But you fellas get your picks ready. And everybody tune in for the pre and post show next weekend. Outside of that, I'm going to give my buddy Chris Landez a shout out. I was hanging out with him yesterday, talking about how I'm always holding my phone during this podcast, and he gave me a phone stand, so I'm hands free. It's been nice during this podcast. Shout out to Chris Landez. Outside of that, man, I don't have much. I'll see everybody next weekend.
Yeah, we appreciate it, Landis. I didn't feel like I got motion sickness today watching Craig with his phone.
Yeah, and of course, the shout out to the guys down at Parabellum Gym, man. Thanks for doing what they do for us, letting us kind of get in there and talk with them. I'm sure we'll have them guys back on the show later on, and best of luck to them.
Yeah, man, we appreciate any chance that we get to talk to real guys doing the real thing here at Headkicks and Haymakers for sure. So absolutely, T's and P's to Botkins. Let's get him back, get the Botkins show back rolling. There will be no Botkins show tonight with him being on vacation. What's going to be one anyway with him being in the COVID camper. It's just going to hold him back a little bit. But let's definitely T's and P's to him. Let's get him back feeling good. We will see you guys, as Craig said, next week for the pre and post show for Usman Edwards 2 at UFC 280. So is that 280 or 279? 280, right?
It is.
It's Usman Edwards 2.
278.
All right, 278. Now I'm ahead a little bit. We'll see you next week, for next Sunday for pre and post show for UFC. This is why Botkins hosts and I don't.
Right. I mean, yeah, Botkins is a better host. Hey, shout out to Dan Harris at Let's Talk Sports too. Always helping us out. Everybody tune in and check them out.
See, also that's housekeeping duties. That's what the host does. Dave Harris over at Let's Talk Sports, always keeping all of our streaming content going for us and Botkins show over to Migos Sports section. You can find us on YouTube, Migos Sports section, Facebook, Twitter, anywhere. Botkins_Nick, Botkins Show, or Craig with the K. Thanks for tuning in, guys. As always, like, comment, subscribe. Here's the outro.